Welcome to Hope for Anxiety and OCD, episode 90. I am your host, Carrie Bach, and here we are all about reducing shame, increasing hope, and developing healthier connections with God and others. A little note since we recorded this episode is that the date for the Faith and OCD conference that Erika is going to talk about today is actually on May the 1st, not May the 8th. And we will put that link in the show notes for you guys if you're interested in attending. Today, I'm very excited to be here with Erika McCoy from Kansas City, Missouri. And she's going to talk with us about her personal story of dealing with OCD as a Christian and in the church, some unhelpful things that have happened and some later on helpful things that have happened and support that she's gotten at this point, and her advocacy with the International OCD Foundation. Welcome.
Hi. Yes, I'm Erika, and I'm born in St. Louis, but my family moved here when I was 3 years old, so pretty much this is my hometown. And I remember having symptoms of OCD when I was about 8, just from my memory, and I did not get diagnosed until I was 24.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a long time.
That's a long time.
It took a long time. I think it's almost average. I think the statistics are anywhere from 11 to 17 years from people when they first start showing symptoms. But a lot of people I talk to now, since getting better, they're getting treatment a lot earlier. That is really exciting news to hear. I was diagnosed about 8 years ago, and Kansas City is a pretty big metropolitan area, but there was not a lot of great treatment options. So I was hospitalized the first time when I was 14, but they did not diagnose me with OCD. I think it was a general panic disorder is what I was diagnosed with.
Do you think they didn't ask all of the questions? Is that how they missed it? Or were there certain thoughts or themes maybe that you were scared to share and you were like, oh, I don't want to tell them that that's really going on?
I mean, when I look back at it, I feel like it was pretty obvious. I mean, like they asked me to put things on scale from 1 to 10. And my biggest thing was being late or being on time. And then, of course, that's also when I went to a different high school, a private school. My parents were really big on making sure I was going to a Christian private school. And I went to a private school that was a different faith tradition. And that is when the first time that a priest there, told me that I was going to go to hell just because I was a different faith tradition.
Wow.
Than faith that I was at. And that really just rocked my mind. I mean, I just could not believe that was my grand offense and I was going to be doomed to hell for that. And there were some other things that were going on with me at that time.
Like a different denomination of Christianity? You went from like one denomination to another, and all of a sudden it was like, you're going to hell because you don't believe these exact things here.
Yes. My family didn't think it was that big of a deal, and I didn't either, but I went from Lutheran to Catholic.
Okay.
But Martin Luther is the one that originally broke away from the Catholic Church. I guess they're kind of salty about that.
They're still upset about it.
Yeah. And their doctrine. I don't know. I'm not trying to like put any other faith down or anything like that. That's just what happened with
your particular experience. Yeah.
And there was a lot of other things happening at that time. My father, they said that he had 6 months left to live. And I mean, it was just a lot of things happening at once. What sent me into like a total breakdown at that point in time was my therapist was late. I mean, just like 5 minutes late. It wasn't even a big deal. It was just 5 minutes. But that caused me to go down into like a total spiral. I thought the world was ending because my therapist was late. And that's totally irrational. And I just felt like I was going to die. Looking back on it, I'm just like, what's going on? And then when I was in the hospital, from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is World War III and 1 is nothing. What is being on time? How important is, or what is the offense of being late? And I was like, oh, definitely World War III. And I don't know. I mean, to me, that's obvious that that's like OCD, but they did not diagnose me with it at that time.
They just thought that you were really into punctuality and that was just a high priority for you.
Yeah, just a high priority thing.
Did you have any family members that were super like, we got to be on time? Was that a thing when you were growing up? You could get in
Yes.
big trouble for
My
being late.
dad, there's a certain percentage, I don't know, that have the genetic factor for
Right.
OCD. Or my
Okay.
father had it, he passed away. My mother has it, my aunt on my maternal side, who passed away as well, and my grandfather on my mom's side as well,
Okay.
who
Yeah.
has
So it's
passed away.
definitely running through the family there.
Yes, but my dad was very big. He would always say all the time that saying, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you might as well not even show up at all. And he would say
Yeah.
that all the time. To me, I don't know, that was just a big thing. And my dad had a lot of things like that. And he was also in the military. It was very much a military run house
A lot of
when
rigidity,
I grew up.
sounds like.
I finally found a psychiatrist that got my diagnosis right when I was 24. And that was a sigh of relief. And I was hospitalized again at 24. And then I had to do 3 different intensive outpatient hospitalizations. They didn't do ERP, but the CBD, cognitive behavioral therapy, helped quite a bit for what it was. But as far as finding a therapist, my psychiatrist knew a lot about OCD. I had to work with my psychiatrist, not on a super regular basis because he's a psychiatrist and very busy, but he gave me the tools and he did psychoanalytical therapy on me to help with OCD. He taught me what ERP was, and then I got like the My OCD workbook. And I kind of had to do a lot of the exposure response stuff by myself, which I do not recommend. Do not do that.
Okay. That was overwhelming for you to not have the support of therapists or somebody else to do it with you.
Yeah, like an actual trained clinician at a weekly basis and do that. I mean, it was very touch and go for me because I could only meet him once a month.
But you're not the only one I've heard that from. I've heard several other people say, well, I tried to find a therapist in my area that was versed in OCD, or I either didn't have a connection with that person, or I couldn't find somebody that had some kind of proper training or proper experience level in order to help me through this. We had a guest on very early in the show, Mitzi Van Cleve. I don't know if you ever heard of her. She's done quite a bit of writing on OCD and Christianity, scrupulosity. She had said, I tried to find a therapist for a long time. And essentially, I looked online and watched videos and used workbooks and kind of had to do a lot of the imaginal exposures on herself in order to get the help that she needed. I don't think that your story is incredibly uncommon. It's a sad state of affairs. And I think that's why we're talking so much about this in terms of increasing awareness, is people are literally suffering for years without help, without even knowing what they're struggling with. And then when they do finally figure it out, there's this uphill battle to try to get the help that they need. And I hate that for this community. I think it's not good at all.
I was relieved when I got diagnosed because honestly, at that point in time, I thought I was really losing my mind, going insane.
Yeah.
I had this, I mean, it was irrational, but I really thought I was going to end up locked away in some sort of 1950s
institution or something.
Institution or something like. I really had no idea. I mean, I knew what OCD was, but I had no idea it could get that bad. I was really relieved when I found out that I had OCD, thankfully. But now, though, in my area, it's on the Kansas side, but there is a Kansas City Anxiety Institute or something like that just got accredited for OCD. So, I mean, making waves now, which I think is really great for the people that get diagnosed. And I'm talking about 8 years ago.
Sure.
It's been a long way. A lot of progress has been made.
Yeah. Tell us about the church's response to OCD. I'm sure there's some people that they just don't really know how to respond when you share that with them. What are some unhelpful and helpful things that you've experienced in terms of trying to connect with faith community as a Christian?
Sure. In my blog that I wrote, I didn't totally stay away for 16 years, but I did not go to church for 16 years because I was having really intrusive, horrible thoughts. These things that were happening in my life, my aunt going missing, being murdered, having to take care of my dad that had abused me my whole entire life, all these things that were happening were rightful punishments from God for something that I'm not quite sure of what I did. I mean, I know I'm a sinner and I know I've done bad things. I mean, nothing like terribly bad because we're all sinners, right? Mm-hmm. And so I kept wrestling with this fact that I know I'm not perfect. I know I haven't done the right things all the time, but what have I done That's so horrible for God just to keep punishing me with these things, thing after thing after thing. In that 16-year break, when I just really felt really scared and I didn't know what was going on, I would go to sometimes it was Christian friends, sometimes it was different pastors, different elders, stuff like that. And I would go to them and not tell them everything because I knew that would probably be too much, but just a little bit of what was going on in my mind. And they were a little shocked. The first reaction out of a lot of people is that I had some sort of spiritual battle going on inside my mind, or my prayer life wasn't doing well, or I had some really bad experiences of people telling me I had demons inside my brain, or
which of course is
Satan
terrifying for someone to
it's
tell you that.
terrifying. Because that was also one of my really horrible what ifs. When you have OCD, people say it's also known as the doubting disorder. And for someone that has the religious scrupulosity theme to it, in my mind, I was having these horrible thoughts of God punishing me. And then I was also worried that maybe Satan was taking over my life. When you go to a religious leader and then they are confirming
your greatest fear at that point.
I don't know how to explain that right. Oh, okay, maybe I am. I don't know. Like, if this person that is really knowledgeable in these things confirms that to you, it's, oh my goodness, maybe that is what's happening. I don't know. That's what really terrified me and scared me. And I would just try everything. I was praying. They're like, how's your prayer life? Not knowing, obviously, that prayer was a compulsion of mine. I would just keep praying more repeatedly. Are you reading your Bible right? I would read my Bible so much. I was reading, because reading my Bible is also a compulsion. And I guess my thing is that I have a lot of empathy for faith leaders, because I know that people come to them with outrageous amount of things, all problems all the time. And that is part of their job description. That is part of their calling in life, is to be there for people. I don't want it to seem like I'm really coming down too hard on them. And I don't want them to be shut off when they hear these things. They can't be knowledgeable in all things with everything, or they'd be God, omniscient, all knowing. They just can't be all those things. But I think a little bit of knowledge can go a long way.
Right.
To me, I sit around sometimes and listen to people talk. And when they start going a little too far, I'm just kind of like, maybe we need to investigate that a little bit, get a little bit further into that. But I guess when I think about the things that I said to different faith leaders of my past, I just wish maybe they would have been like, maybe we don't bring up Satan in this situation. Like, I haven't been to seminary or anything like that, but maybe demon possession is real. Maybe it's not. There's that uncertainty there. Maybe not. But for me, I was born this way. It's a genetic thing. For me, that means that God made me this way. He knit me in the womb this way. He knew this was going to happen. We're all made in his image. So there's something about me and the people like me that deal with this. He's wanting to bring to light, and we all deserve, it's just like the Beatitudes. We all deserve to have a beautiful, meaningful walk with Christ despite all these other things. And that's what I want to get across to faith leaders, other Christians. Even though you don't understand it, just a little bit of knowledge can go a long way and really help people get past their issues that they can't control and bring us all back to worshiping God.
I think you just spoke to it right there. We're on a journey with our faith. It's a walk. And I think sometimes as Christians, we're so concerned with getting people to a certain destination, more so than we are of walking with them as they're wrestling and as they're going through the process. And for some reason in the church, we're terrified to say, I don't know. I'm not sure why that is, because I'm sure there were plenty of people in the Bible who, at the end of the day, if you read the Psalms and you read the scriptures, they didn't know. They didn't fully understand everything. And somehow in this context, we go, okay, somebody has a problem. I have the Bible. I have Jesus. Like, there has to be a solution. Okay, let me give them a solution. And it's this almost like this pressure that we put on ourselves instead of just saying, like, Erika, I can see that you're really struggling with this. Let me pray for you. I'm not even sure how to support you through this. How can I support you through this. I don't know that I have all the answers that you're searching for, but I want you to know that I care about you and I love you. I think if we could get that response out of our faith leaders, that would be so much more helpful than trying to dig through all of the nuances of everything that's going on. And I think that's why so many of the stories in the Bible bring me comfort, because we forget we know the end of their story. We know what happened to Joseph in the end. He didn't know what was going to happen to him in the middle when he's in jail or when he's a slave. He didn't know that he was going to have a beautiful ending and that he was going to be reunited with his family. In that same way, we're all in the middle of our story somewhere, and we don't know how things are going to work out a lot of times. Talk with us about how you learn to maybe sit with some of the uncertainties or the mysteries of your faith that you experienced.
Well, yeah, for sure. I think whether you have OCD or not, what I've learned is a lot of people have a hard time, just like you said, not knowing. They want answers and they want them now.
Yeah.
And I think life has just taught me, along with having to go through the therapy that treats OCD, or at least make living with life with OCD easier to live. That helped me. And then also just the experiences of my life. Nobody has an easy life. I'm not going to pretend that that is the case. There's just been some circumstances in my life that is just, or when I look back, it's just like, why? What is happening here? Even like with my father, the doctors told us when I was 14, he had 6 months to live. My dad did not end up passing away. I was 24.
Wow. That's a big discrepancy from what they originally told you.
For a long time, all of us were just always so constantly worried, and we need to spend all the time we can. We have to do everything we can for him because he's right at death's door. Constantly. Every surgery he went into, we had to say goodbye to him as if it was the last time we were going to see him. And I can't even tell you how many surgeries he had between 14 to 25. And we had to go and say goodbye to him. And that is not what happened. That taught me a lot about sitting with uncertainty and not knowing when someone's going to go in that case. And then with my aunt, we actually were having a fight when this happened. I had not talked to her for 8 months before she went missing. I think people, they disconnect from family members for all sorts of different reasons, right?
Sure.
That's a normal thing. When dynamics become unhealthy, sometimes we have to put boundaries in and disconnect.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a healthy thing. One would never think that your loved one would go missing during that time, but that is what happened with my aunt. And then it took 7 months to find her body. And then normally how it goes when you find your missing loved one's body, you get answers right away, or at least some answers. Maybe
this is what we think happened, or this is this is who we suspect may have been involved, or something.
Something like that. And that did not come and has not come. And it's been 8 years. In May, it'll be 8 years. That's another thing that I've just been, I'm going to say forced. And I did a lot of things to try to find answers. I mean, I was always sharing her information, passing out flyers constantly. I did a lot of things to try to bring awareness to that. And no matter what, her other friends, or other family members, those answers have not come. No matter how much we would like them to, it's just not the time. And we're just going to have to wait it out. And that took me a long time to be, I mean, I'm not okay with it, but just kind of like it is what it is. And
you've had to make peace with it at some level.
Yeah, at some level. I mean, I can talk till I'm blue in the face and knock on doors and do all sorts of things, and maybe it would make a difference. I don't know. But at this point in time, I feel like I know the process, and it's going to take whoever has intimate knowledge to come forward. And that is on them and God and the Holy Spirit working through them to want to come forward with that. And it's just out of my control. I don't have anything to do with that. And then when it comes to my faith, with all these different experiences in life, I was really scared when I first went back to church about 2 years ago because of the interactions I've had. I just really didn't with Christians and my Christian friends and stuff like, and faith leaders. But, you know, I just thought, been through all these crazy things. I'm still here. And that's got to be for a reason. There's got to be a reason
Yeah.
that I'm still here through all these things. And I'm still relatively unscathed. I'm still intact and I'm still doing pretty good here. I just really wanted me and my family to really have a connection with God. And I just went ahead and I was like, I'm just going to do this. And the first church I went back to was actually really great in lots of ways. Got to help plan Easter and help with their Facebook. I mean, I did a lot of things that really brought a lot of value. And that was the first time I prayed out loud in front of a church. Let me tell you, it was not a great prayer. I was so scared to get up there and do that prayer. I think at the end I said, well, anyway, amen.
That's okay.
It was an awkward prayer.
God understands. It's all right. Yeah.
But I did it. It was a great place for me to practice a lot of exposures. And I was really thankful for that. Personally, there were some problems, but that's okay. It showed me that there was just still a lot of things with OCD, misunderstandings. But I'm still really thankful because I got to exposures and a smaller place of worship and just be who I am. I was able to meet a lot of great people that are very loving and kind, and it really was a good place as a stepping stone. It also taught me to stick with it because honestly, if you would have talked to me, I don't even know how long I don't want to say my former self, but in the past,
Sure.
if I would have done that and went through that, I would have been like, okay, we're done here. I'm never trying it again. Prior to treatment, I would have been, we're done here. I tried, I gave it a good effort, but no, I would have taken that as a sign that God doesn't want me to be in church or something ridiculous. But because of the tools, where I am in my mental health journey, where I am in my faith journey, I knew that I just had to keep going. And eventually, even if it wasn't the next one, I would find a place that would be where I'm supposed to be. No church is going to be perfect, okay? We know that.
Right.
We're all
Yeah,
people. There's lots of people
absolutely.
interacting. And that's another thing to keep in mind, too. But thankfully, it was just one other church that I stopped at, and it's been a beautiful thing. There's a lot of really understanding people. At least all the people I've came across are very encouraging. They might not understand exactly what I'm talking about or what I'm going through, but they're very encouraging, loving. I've even got some questions about what it is that I'm talking about, not in like a weird judgmental way or anything like that, but
Healthy curiosity.
it's just, healthy curiosity. It's just such an amazing feeling to go into a place after all the things, preconceptions, being scared and all those things, and to finally find a place that you can just be who you are and just be able to work on your relationship with God. Even if that means that you do some weird OCD things while you're working on your ERP and not have to be worried about the judgment of others, and you can just focus on growing the relationship between you and God.
Yeah, I appreciate that message, I think, for a lot of people who are disconnected from the church right now because they've experienced spiritual hurt or even abuse in some cases. And I appreciate that. Don't give up on the body of Christ and don't give up on yourself and the community that could be really healthy and supporting you. And we've talked about that in various episodes on the show. I think supportive faith communities can be really transformational, like you're saying. I think we weren't meant to kind of do this whole walk and journey alone. We need other people surrounding us and to know that God's with you and guiding you and leading you to that place where he wants you to be. So I think that's really encouraging to a lot of people. Tell us a little bit about your advocacy work with the International OCD Foundation.
With the International OCD Foundation, I do most of my work in the special interest group of faith and OCD. That's where my passion is, for sure.
Yeah.
We have meetings. It's been a little crazy right now because we're leading up to the conference, the Faith and OCD conference in May 8th. So we've been having a couple of extra meetings to plan out each month. So in January, the theme was it's not about faith, it's OCD. And so that's where my article came out of. And then February, we're going to be highlighting having the healthy amount of doubt versus certainty, because, in faith, it's okay to have doubt. It's how that can be challenging with people with OCD to understand that healthy amount of doubt versus getting in the loop of uncertainties. That we're working on that, and there'll be themes every month leading up to May. And I am really excited about the conference for Faith and OCD. I haven't gone to one in the past because here's the crazy thing. So I've technically been an advocate almost 8 years, but I was in such a bad place. I've just been following all these things, but I haven't really been doing much. When one of the other advocates said to me, like, so crazy, you've known about all this stuff for 8 years and you haven't gone yet. And I'm like, no, but this year is the year. Okay. I'm going to do these conferences. I'm going to go to the
And that's online, isn't it?
The Faith and OCD one is. Yeah, it's a Zoom, a virtual one. The Faith and OCD website via the International OCD Foundation has a lot of great information on it. It even breaks down per faith tradition. There's one for like Protestants, Judaism, I believe. I don't know. It just breaks it down for a whole bunch of different faith traditions for people to get information, which I think is great. I don't know that much about interfaith. I'm a Christian, and that's where I have most of my knowledge in, but their website's really great. There's a lot of great resources for Christians, lots of slides, and also really great ways for faith leaders. You can print off different things, and if you're kind of less vocal or more shy, you can just print it off and hand it to your faith leader, which I love that, because like not everyone is as vocal or want to have face-to-face conversations, so you can just put in their mailbox and go upon your way. I definitely recommend that. If anybody wants to spread knowledge to their faith leaders, you can just print that off and slide it under their door or whatever, and then just walk along your way, and they might not even know where it came from. Then what I'm doing for this month and the months coming up to May is that I'm doing a Rocking Your Values, Navigating Faith and OCD in the Community painting workshop. I like to paint rocks.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
I like to paint just about anything, really. But last OCD week in 2022, I came up with this OCD advocacy initiative where, so teal is the color for OCD awareness.
Okay.
You paint the base of the rock teal, and then basically you can write OCD facts on it, or you can paint. I mean, I can pretty much see anything in a creative picture type of way. So I paint lots of little pictures on mine. Some people are more, is it left or right brain? I don't know which one's more analytical, but
whatever works for people. Yeah, do what works for you, whether it's like writing something on the rock, or I did some of that during the pandemic because, let's face it, we were all at home. Let me order a few supplies on Amazon and see what I can do with some rocks here. That's from a rock place near me. They were like, you can just have some of these. I was like, are you serious? That's great.
Oh, I know. I got 200 rocks donated to me. Yeah, so I have plenty. I can do plenty of these rocks. You paint them, you put your OCD facts on them to make it like an advocacy thing. I mean, you're more than welcome to keep them if you want to, but I've done quite a few of them. The last time I went on a road trip, every place I stopped, I left a rock.
Oh.
And then on the back, it says at International OCD Foundation. So if they Google that, it brings up the International OCD Foundation. It also has my Instagram tag on it, but not everyone wants that kind of information out there. But my Instagram tag is specific enough where if you Google that, it'll bring up scrupulosity OCD. Okay. So that brings up knowledge. And then it also has the hashtag Rockin' Your Values, but also bring up different things. That's something that I started, but if more people get into it, it's a great way to advocate, and you can be kind of introverted about it too, because you can just paint your rock and then just drop it somewhere, and then a random person can, whether they know about OCD or not, can pick it up and get some knowledge about it.
Yeah, I love options for introverts because a lot of times they feel they're not out there, they can't make a difference, but there's plenty of small ways that they could make a difference by just dropping something off by their pastor, or by painting a rock and leaving it somewhere and directing it to some helpful information. Sure. Yes. Introverts unite. That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm an introverted extrovert.
I would consider myself that a little bit too. Yeah. I can have some extrovert tendencies when I need to, but then I also need to hole off and recharge sometimes and not see anybody or talk to anybody. This has been a really great conversation. I probably feel like we could go on for forever and ever. But one thing I like to ask my guests that are sharing a personal story is if you could go back and tell your younger self something, even your teenage self something who is in the midst of all these difficult situations, what would you want her to know?
I guess the biggest thing would be that God loves you, Jesus loves you, and the expectation to be perfect is not achievable. And just to have some compassion for yourself in the really hard times to come.
Yeah. Jesus was perfect, so we don't have to be.
Yes.
That's a nice realization for all of us, I think, that put pressure on ourselves or unrealistic expectations to achieve certain things. We'll put links to your article about your story and where people can find you on Instagram and so forth if they want to connect and find out more about painting rocks with you. That's really cool.
Yes, I love that. Some people are like, but I'm not a good artist. Okay, well, one, I'm a firm believer that all art is good art, okay?
Yeah.
Even if you just make a little stick figure or I don't even know what. I remember art therapy was one of the big things that, well, it can be ERP, I will say that. But art therapy is just so much for me when I was younger in therapy, doing collages and all these things. So for me, if you think you're the worst artist ever, like just trust the process, put a brush down on something and just let it go, or make a collage. I don't know, just try it once and just see how it feels. Just let it go and just try it once.
Roll with it.
And it'll do some, roll with it.
All right. Erika and I had a short conversation off mic because I didn't have a lot of time to ask her this when I was interviewing her about the connection between trauma and OCD, since she mentioned several different traumatic events in the course of her talk. And it's interesting to me, the more and more that I work with clients who have this overlap of childhood, also adulthood trauma and OCD symptoms, is it seems like the trauma symptoms exacerbate the OCD symptoms, which would make sense because when people are under stress, their OCD symptoms tend to flare up more. So it's just something to think about if you've noticed in your own life that overlap between trauma and OCD, that getting some help for that trauma may help you as you're trying to work through the OCD symptoms as well.
Hope for Anxiety and OCD is a production of By the Well Counseling. Our show is hosted by me, Carrie Bach, licensed professional counselor in Tennessee. Opinions given by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of myself or By the Well Counseling. Our original music is by Brandon Mangrum. Until next time, may you be comforted by God's great love for you.